For quite some time now, the idea of a legacy recruit has meant a lot to NC State football. Coming down the pipeline, they might have their shot at their biggest one ever.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's Thursday episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms, as always, apply. Happy Thursday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Kenton, we had discussed a very particular quarterback in the 2027 class. I believe it was sometime last summer. And the way we left it was like, all right, let's see how he continues to progress. We'll track his recruitment. We'll talk about this more down the line. It's starting to get a little bit more down the line here. And of course, we are talking about legacy recruit, perhaps the biggest one ever, quarterback Gunnar Rivers, son of NC State legend Phillip Rivers. He is a 2027 quarterback. NC State was his first offer. I believe it was sometime this past fall. The other four schools that have landed on Gunnar's radar so far, these are just the schools that have offered him. They are Auburn, Boston College, Miami, and South Carolina. Again, in addition to NC State being first. So, Kenton, just starting right here, how concerned are you with his recruitment, being that NC State was first, but now there's other schools clamoring along?
I mean, we knew this would be the case, and obviously this is the ideal situation, right? You don't want to be the team that's offering a guy that's a legacy that has no other offers. Right. Because now it's like, you're just doing a guy solid, and I'm not going to say any names, but I think that there are players who have their perceptions hurt by that. I'm looking at you, Lex Thomas, because I think he's secretly a baller. I think that the kid's really good. I think that Lex is a fine backup, could potentially be a starter, but people look at him like, oh, he's just another Thomas brother. And again, when I watch the tape on him, I'm like, oh, he's got the goods. There's something to him here. And so I say all that to say, if you look at his offer list, it wasn't as impressive as Gunnar's. So people are naturally going to lean toward that. How comfortable should I feel as a fan? How comfortable do I feel to where you have more leeway for a 4 or 5-star guy making some mistakes than you do a guy who's somewhat unheralded, even if they're the exact same level of player. So it's best that we do see him get these other offers. Other schools think he's great. Other schools think he's all this and that. And with that in mind, I don't think that NC State should be afraid or fearful in this moment, because at the end of the day, if NC State is still on his radar at a high ranking or high position here, if he's not afraid to, kind of walk in those footsteps and say, hey, I'm here. I'm not my dad, though. I'm a different guy. I'm going to do different things, but I hope to break as many records and say as many things as what he put up. That'd be great. And one last thing, because of who his father is, it actually gives us a bonus in a way that people may not realize, because not only did his father play here, he had a very long and very storied NFL career in which he made approximately, and I'm not a liar, folks, this is all public information that you can Google, upwards of $250 million. Ooh. Now, granted, I get it, with all the kids that Phillip Rivers has, that leaves about $20 per child, but that still means that, like, this ain't the situation where it's like, hey, I got to go to the highest bidder. I got to get mom out the middle of the sticks in the middle of Nowheresville where it's tougher. I got to get mom out the project. It's not necessarily that type of situation with him. So this is truly going to be the best team that puts him in the best situation to get what he desires out of college football. You can be the winner. The question is, can NC State provide those things? What are those things to Gunnar, and can NC State provide them?
Yeah, we all know the Rivers family is probably struggling to keep food on the table when they have a million kids running around. But no, it is an interesting idea. The thought that would NC State get like either a hometown discount or a hometown nod, just a little bit more respect because, hey, my dad went there. He was a legend. Maybe I can go there and create my legacy alongside of his. That'd be a great thing. Or I have kind of two more situations I want to break this conversation into, Kenton. Number one, let's say hypothetically NC State goes 6-6 again in 2025. Being that Gunner is a 2027 quarterback, he's going to be making a decision here probably sometime relatively soon. His rankings are shooting up. He's like a top 10 quarterback in the 2027 class now. He's a 4-star, getting to be a fringe 5-star quarterback. This is all going to heat up and probably happen very quickly. So if NC State struggles again, let's say in 2025, do you think that would hurt our chances, or it wouldn't necessarily be the end of the world?
I think it definitely hurts your chances. It may not end your chances. It may not be a situation where it's now all of a sudden, hey, we've got no shot at this guy, but it does hurt you. And anybody who tells you otherwise is a liar, because, again, this is a situation where good players want to play with good players. Right. Good players want to play on good teams. Most good players deeply want to play for championships because there's a competitor inside of every player. But when you talk about the best of the best, that fire that burns, that says, I want to be the best, is only satiated by an endless amount of championships, which starts from your little league, goes up to high school, lasts throughout college, and then you hit the apex, NFL, or whatever league that you do play in professionally. You want to win every championship you possibly can. So obviously, winning helps you with recruits. There is nothing that will reel in recruits like a national championship, like a conference championship, like a 10-win season. There's nothing better for recruiting than that. And if you think I'm wrong, I understand. I'm fine with that. But I would implore you to look at what happens to teams that come off of 10-win or more seasons who are bringing their coaches back. Look at those recruiting classes on average. Look at what they do. Guys want to be there. Guys want to play with other really good guys. And some people say correlation is not causation. And I would simply say this. You're not asking a question of which came first, the chicken or the egg. You're asking which one came first, the chicken or the chicken nugget. Most of these teams had to make good with what they had, and then they became a powerhouse in recruiting consistently. So at the end of the day, again, if NC State can find a way, if Coach Doran can find a way to muster up a really good season next year, which, by the way, I did not rule out a realm of possibility in yesterday's episode. I said I think it's going to be really bad or really good. Not sure which one, but I know it's going to be one. And if it ends up being that 8+ win type of year, I think we have a great shot at landing Gunner in the future. And
Kenton, you've even talked to some recruits in the not-so-distant past, and they kind of hinted at the idea that, well, if NC State was a little bit more consistent, if they were, a bigger threat to be a contender, I think I probably would consider the Wolfpack maybe a little bit more than I do. It's a very real thing. Winning breeds success. The Alabamas and the Ohio States and the Texas and the Oregons, they didn't get to where they were without being elite on the football field. Once you win a lot, you also win a lot in the living room or on the recruiting trail. NC State has got to find a way to make this season and probably the next season a success if you want to have a chance to bring in probably your most coveted quarterback of all time since the original came through, his daddy. So the second part of this equation here, and I think this makes it just a little bit more interesting, I'll cut right through all the fluff. If Coach Doran is not here for Gunner's recruitment, do you think that would make a considerable impact for NC State, considering Kurt Roper is also the guy that's recruiting him? So if none of these coaches are here the time that Gunner's either committing or about to come to state, how much do you think that would change things?
I mean, it depends on who we get as the replacement. I think that weighs heavily into it, right? It could be a situation where you're looking at this team kind of seems like a rudderless ship right now, or you could get a slam dunk hire that everybody has been pining for and waiting for, which would, put a lot of buzz and enthusiasm around the program, of course. And I know that some of you all are going to float this out there, so I'm going to say it now, right? We saw a similar situation over in Colorado where a head coach came from a coaching background and brought his son with him. And if I do recall correctly, Phillip Rivers is currently a head coach at the High School of Gunner, correct?
Yep.
Okay. I would not necessarily want that, but I'm not sure I'd be 100% against it. I am always willing to give any new hire for state the chance to, do something and prove guys right or wrong or whatever the case may be. I don't know. I I'm not sure I'd want a legend coming back to coach. I mean, we saw what happened with Sidney Lowe in basketball, and but again, if it lands us a really good quarterback, I'm a big believer, and it's never about your X's and your O's. It's really always your Larrys and your Joes. And whoever's got the best Larrys, Jimmys, and Joes, they get it done. And if getting a coach that it may not be the ideal guy, or he could be the ideal guy, we could see a resurgence a lot like what Colorado's seeing. This is their best coach since Coach Mack in the 90s. And so, it could be that. It could be that. I'm not sure. I know people are going to mention it, but Coach Doran being there could hurt, could help a lot, could seal the deal, depending on what the situation is coming in behind him. But, I don't want to write that off as a guaranteed variable of a definite negative, definite positive. Who knows?
We've had a lot of people comment and ask our thoughts on what do you think if Phillip Rivers came to be the head coach at NC State? I've maintained a pretty consistent ground. I don't really see it to be that believable. I know Deion did it with Shador and Shiloh as well, but I don't think this is that. And maybe I'm wrong because, yes, Phillip Rivers is currently Gunner's high school coach. Maybe the timeline matches up well that you take a shot with Phillip Rivers, but I don't know. I have that bad taste in my mouth kind of because of a Sidney Lowe. You know the saying, never meet your heroes. It kind of feels like that. I don't know if I want to put Phillip Rivers in that situation where now he is the guy, and if things don't go well, you get kind of that bad taste in your mouth. I don't know. But if that's what it takes to bring Gunner here, let's run it. Make it happen. If that's what it takes, whatever. I'll keep my mouth shut. It'll be an exciting time in Raleigh. We'll see where this thing goes. But not only is NC State fighting for more consistent success, but they're fighting for more consistent success on the recruiting trail. NC State being able to land Gunner Rivers would be a massive win in more ways than one. Coming up next, we're going to get into our midseason basketball grades. Buckle up for this one, discussing where we're kind of at the midpoint of the season. This comes after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first Thursday sponsor is Talkspace. Therapy is a game changer. It can help manage stress, improve sleep, and it can help you communicate more effectively. But finding the right therapist and fitting sessions into a busy schedule can be a real challenge. That's where Talkspace comes into play. Talkspace is the leading virtual therapy provider, making getting the help you need easy, accessible, and affordable. With Talkspace, signing up is simple. You can match with a licensed therapist who fits your needs, usually within just 48 hours. And it's convenient. You can have sessions from the comfort of your home and even message your therapist between appointments. Plus, Talkspace is covered by many insurance plans, and for most insured members, there's a $0 copay. It's never been easier to prioritize your mental health. As a listener of this podcast, you will get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege. Use this and enter the promo code SPACE80, SPACE80. Match with a licensed therapist today and head on over to Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege and use the promo code SPACE80, $80 off your first month, and show your support for the show. That's Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege using promo code SPACE80. Middle portion of our Thursday show. Now time to dive into some mid-season basketball grades for our men's basketball team. In an effort to be constructive in our criticism, we're going to try and treat this like a parent-teacher conference. So we're going to outline some of the things that are going wrong. We're going to give them a grade, but we're also going to talk about the couple things that are going right and there are things that you can build upon. So we're not going to try and spend 10 minutes dumping on everything that's happened this year. I don't think that's necessarily fair or necessary, to be quite honest. We know what we're seeing. Things are not going well. No need to make it worse than it is. But this is a parent-teacher conference, so to speak. So Kenton, we're going to get started with the guard play in the backcourt. Let's talk about two things that are going really well before we get into the criticism and the grading.
Yeah, so if I had to work out something that's going really well for the guards, the dribble penetration has been phenomenal for the most part. I've seen very good ability. I've seen a very high level ability to get to the Baja, right? Now the finishing, we'll get to that later. But there hasn't been a ton of turnovers generated by guys driving and trying to kind of turn the corner on their defenders. We've seen guys be able to do that, particularly the guys that have the ball in their hands the most, at a high enough clip to where, again, guys aren't being forced to take a bunch of terribly contested mid-range shots, which we all know that's the worst shot in basketball efficiency wise. So I would say avoiding that has been pretty good. And then to kind of build off of that, avoiding turnovers. We have not been a terribly turnover prone team. We've done a good job of taking care of the ball for the most part. So that is a direct derivative of the guard play. At the moment, I do not believe that we have multiple players that are averaging 3 or more turnovers. And Grayson, please correct me if I'm wrong there. But at the moment, I'm sorry, we don't even have a guy that's above 2.5 turnovers per game. So I think that we're really looking at a good job of taking care of the ball. And that's something that I'd have to appreciate. Those two things, the ability to dribble penetrate, the ability to take care of the ball, despite dribble penetration being one of the quickest ways to generate a turnover if you're doing loose ball handling in the lane. I think those are two things I've got to give the guards credit for.
Yeah, I will definitely echo your sentiments. This team doesn't turn the ball over that much. And that is a definite bright spot for this team. We wish it would translate to a couple more points, but one way to definitely shoot yourself in the foot is not be able to control the basketball. So they do a pretty decent job of doing that. And your second point about the dribble penetration, I think easily the best two at doing such was Marcus Hill and Jaden Taylor. And now Marcus Hill has been our leading scorer for the majority of the year, if not the entire year up to this point. His consistency and his ability to get to the rim and get into the lane and sometimes make something out of nothing, it's been a driving force in this offense for the majority of the season so far. Jaden Taylor, although he is a subject of a lot of criticism, he's having a lot better season than I think a lot of people would believe once you look at the numbers here. He's averaging 12.8 points per game. He's just a touch under 36% from beyond the perimeter. That's a good number. And I think those two are really carrying a lot of the water for the team right now. It's going to take a lot more help, obviously, but those are some of the things that the team is doing well. Now we're going to transition into the constructive criticism, Kenton, and then we'll give our overall grade.
Constructive criticism. Be more creative with your ball movement. Be more creative with your ability to find open guys and finish. Finish at the rim. Getting there is good, but finishing is better. And the last criticism I'll give you is you're looking at a situation where Breon Pass and Jaden Taylor are the only two guys on this team that are shooting above 33% from deep. That's it. Breon Pass and Jaden Taylor. Nobody else is shooting at a very high clip at all in terms of shooting from deep. And that's something that I need to see this backcourt add in. That's something that I need to see this backcourt be a plus factor in, because when they are struggling to shoot like this, we've talked about it a million times, it makes it tougher on everybody else. If you are not having the ability to have your guards keep guys honest, it's one of the things that opens up that ability to get to the rim and have that gravity and make guys, close out a little tougher more than anything else. The ability to knock down that shot. Right now, teams could play off and say, hey, they self-check. And we've proven ourselves to, in fact, be self-check. So I would say that those are my biggest criticisms. The lack of creativity. Yes, we don't turn the ball over a ton. Yes, we don't have anybody averaging over 2.5 turnovers. We also only have one guy averaging over 3 assists, and that's Michael O'Connell with 3.6. Not a single other guy on this team is averaging more than that. We're looking at 13 assists a game. That's not enough. That's just not enough.
That's exactly where I was going to start. The assist rate for this team is so impossibly low almost. And that is something that has to change if you're going to experience any incline in success here the rest of the season. You have to be able to share the ball more, whether that's getting more creative in the ball movement itself or just making the extra pass. Too much dribbling and trying to put the ball through the floor, especially in crucial moments of the game. And it's really killed this team in multiple points over the course of this season. There needs to be a lot more love in sharing the ball and finding the open guy more often than just trying to create something out of nothing by yourself. The second one is really a cop-out, to be honest, but you just have to hit more shots. The crazy thing about this team is I don't think they're that far off from winning a lot of these games that have been one possession games. It's really just been a handful of shots that haven't fallen that have ended up being the difference. And we're going to touch on coaching a little bit later, but I don't even think the plays that have been drawn up have been that bad It's just that the execution has been bad. And so that's why we're currently sitting where we sit. So, yeah, it's a cop out. It's not very analytical here, but you have to find a way to hit the open looks when you get them. This team is not good enough to miss the open ones consistently and expect to walk away smelling like sunshine and roses. I'll put it to you that way. So overall grade for the backcourt, Kenton, what would you give them?
I'd give them exactly a C minus C. That's what I'm feeling right now. Y'all know how my grading system works. A is like, hey, can't do anything better. Can't do anything. B is you're playing at a high level. Keep coming. Just keep doing what you're doing. C is like you're net positive some night, net negative others, kind of up in the air. D is somebody need to lose their job. And F, clean house. I think we're at a C right now. I think we're at a C. Some nights we're really net positives in the backcourt. Other nights it's like, our guys give as good as they get. And, you kind of keep going from there. So I'd say C minus, somewhere in that range.
Yep, I agree. I have them at a C as well. I think it's perfectly average. Perfectly average has really been the entire description of the backcourt so far this year. Now moving into the front court, the big men. Let's start with our positives so far.
Positives, Dontrez Styles has shot in the ball well, and Ben Middlebrooks has been a really good rim protector. And I say these players in particular because these are not ubiquitous things throughout the front court. Shooting well from deep, or even taking the shots from deep in ways that I'm like, I'm okay with that. And protecting the rim have not been things that are for everybody, but those two in particular have done what they do at a high level. I mean, if somebody would have told me coming into this season, hey, Ken, you know that Ben Middlebrooks guy? Yeah, he's going to average nearly 2 blocks a game here. I would have said you're out of your mind. For reference, Ben Middlebrooks is averaging more blocks per game this year than he did in his entire career before this combined. 0.6 last year, 0.4 the year before that, 0.2 the year before that. You combine all those together, you get 1.2. This year, he's up at 1.6. Also, again, just as a defender, Ben Middlebrooks has been a definite positive down low. We love the Benergy is showing through, and he reminds me a lot of a certain center named Ben. Used to play in Detroit a little bit back in the day. Used to do some pretty good things. Now, we could get the rebounding part to come along with it. That'd be great. But seriously, Ben Middlebrooks has been spectacular in terms of as a rim protector this year at a level that, I wouldn't have necessarily seen coming into the year.
Yeah, the overwhelming positive out of the front court has been the Benergy, without a doubt. His ability to come into a game and be kind of a bull in a china shop, sometimes more positive, sometimes it can be a little too much and roll into a negative, but nonetheless, it's always there. And that is one of my favorite things about the way that Ben Middlebrooks plays the game. We cannot let that flame burn out or else things might get really ugly. Unfortunately, I don't really have too many more positives about the front court because the rebounding has been very mediocre. The ability to finish at the rim been very mediocre. Some of the defense at times has been okay. I do agree with your point on Middlebrooks being a good rim protector. That has been a positive as well, but I guess I'll roll us into the constructive criticism here. Have to clean up the glass a whole lot better. It's been borderline embarrassing so far. To be one of the bottom rebounding teams in the entire conference, it's a really big reason why you're struggling to win games. It's a really big reason why teams are getting 4, 5, 6 chances on one possession and they finally bury it, and now you're in a bad spot. And it doesn't just fall on the front court either, to be fair. It requires everyone. It's going to have to be an all-hands-on-deck type of effort. But the front court especially, when you need those guys to bring down the keyboards and they're just not quite getting it done, it creates a glaring deficiency in this team right now. So that has to be cleaned up. And then my other point, I kind of already touched on it. When you get a bunny at the rim, whether it's a layup or a dunk or whatever, please, for the love of God, finish. We've missed far too many layups and even a couple dunks this year that have killed us as well. We cannot afford to miss the shots within 2 feet or maybe even shorter than that. It's not really fair of me to beg them to find some touch or just finish more, but that's what we're missing. We're missing a lot of just short range, finish at the rim type of deals. That has to be cleaned up. Kenton, I'll shoot back to you. What's your constructive criticism for the front court?
This is one of those things that you have control over. You have control over. And if it was parent-teacher conference, it's the same way that the teachers always used to tell my mom, Your son is so bright and he's so gifted. He just won't stop talking. After he finishes his work, he distracts the other students. Yeah, what a shock. What a shock. I talked entirely too much. But here's something that the Pack can't control. Here's something that Ben Middlebrooks, Brandon Huntley Hatfield, Ishmael Diouf, Dontrez Styles, anybody else that plays in the front court can't control. Be tougher. Be stronger in terms of your mental fortitude and knowing the ball is going to the rim. I am a junkyard dog. I'm going to fight. I'm going to scrap. I'm going to claw. If I got to jump into the third row, get the hell out the way because I'm coming. I don't see that sense of urgency from our front court to get to these rebounds by and large. And that's a problem for me. Ben Middlebrooks shows it. Dontrez Styles shows it. I don't see it from everybody. And that's a problem. I don't see guys trying to rebound like it's their last. Like, this rebound means everything to me. And that's what you get when you see those multiple, efforts from an offense. And then my last thing would be shot selection. Some of y'all need to step inside the paint and not leave no more. Okay? Get in that paint and do your damage in that paint. You know what else is going to happen when you stay in that paint? It's going to give you a better opportunity to rebound better. It's going to give you a better opportunity to clean up some of those misses. Get you some easy, hey, I'm working in the muck. I'm working in the trenches. I'm the trash man. I'm the trash collector. Give me that. Let me go back up and give me two while everybody's not at the rim. Again, those are my two things I would say are probably the biggest right now. I just don't see if you're not uber talented, you need to out-effort everybody. Yeah. And right now, it doesn't look like we're uber talented in the front court, but it also doesn't look like we're out-efforting guys. It doesn't look like if anybody plays NC State or if anybody asks, what would you know NC State for right now, this season? What do they do? Nobody would say they out-effort everybody. Those guys, that front court, oh boy, I'll tell you what, those bigs are on it. I just wouldn't hear that. So that's something that, again, talent-wise, we clearly are at a deficit to some other teams. Or if there isn't a deficit in talent, then I don't know what has happened to make this like a Space Jam. Your abilities have been sucked out by the Monstars type of deal. But, it has to be an all-out effort. Everything has to be done in the rebounding game like it means the world to.
Yeah, and unrelenting aggression is a characteristic that this team sadly does not have. There's not that want to on a consistent basis that you can tell. In fact, sometimes it's the opposite. And again, that is the reason we sit where we sit. I have them at a C-. Maybe that's generous for some folks, but C- for me. What say you, Kenton?
D.
Yeah.
A D. Multiple guys need to I wouldn't be mad at if you play NCAA 25, right? The roster can have 85 guys. You know what prompt you get if you're over 85? You know what comes up, Grayson?
Push people to transfer.
Encourage to transfer.
Yeah.
And right now, I would not be mad at all at Keys if he was like, we got to shake this up. I'm not bringing this front court back as it stands right now. I wouldn't be mad at him. I wouldn't be mad because, again, some of the things that we're seeing is just like, what is this? What are we doing here? And for reference here, our front court, in terms of our two guys that play the most, Huntley Hatfield and Ben Middlebrooks, between those two, they're averaging 9.7 rebounds per game. Between our two front court guys that play the most. Huntley Hatfield averaged 8.4 by himself last year. What more do I need to say? We have two players that on the boards are putting out the statistical output that one of those guys put up by himself last year. I don't see a world where you just run this back. Definite D for me. Somebody got to go. I don't know who it is. I don't know what's happening. Something needs to change in an extremely meaningful way in this front court.
Yeah, and we'll talk a lot more about next year when the time comes, but I would anticipate a very heavy portal class for Keats going into next year. Again, more on that down the road. And then just real quickly, Kenton, your overall coaching grade at the midpoint, technically, of the season.
I'd probably give coaching a D as well. Because while I can say like, hey, at some point your players have to execute, the coaches put together this roster.
Right.
And you and me saw some of these deficiencies coming in the offseason, did we not?
Yes. Yeah.
Did we not ask the question of where's the three-point shooting going to come from on this team?
Yep.
Did we not ask the question of are we making ourselves small and bad at shooting all at once? So we're going to lose on the boards and we're going to lose. We asked those questions. So some of the things that we're seeing, I mean, at the end of the day, Keith's put together the squad. And even when we move past that, hey, the bottom line is you put it together and institutional control thing, I have not seen enough meaningful adjustments to kind of make the hairs on my neck stand up and say, okay, we're serious. We're cooking. We're doing things that we need to do. And the last thing that I'm going to say here, Breon Pass not getting more playing time astounds me. It quite literally leaves me dumbfounded every time. Like, I get it. The young man is not super long. He is not the greatest defender in the world, all that good stuff. Sure. But what he does add, I think, is enough for me to say, you know what? It makes sense. You know what? We may need to go to him and see what we can get done there this year. Because, again, this is what I'm seeing from this young man and what I've seen from the rest of the team. It seems like he's the fix to a lot of problems. He's one of the best free throw shooters on the team. He's one of the best three-point shooters on the team. He may not have, again, the same length and defensive ability as some of the guys playing in front of him. He may not have the same ability to get into the lane and make good things happen as some of the guys in front of him have. But he does have the ability that if he is open and you do have somebody who can get to the rim and put pressure on the defense and make defenses collapse around him, have a little bit of gravity on him, if you do have that and you kick it out them, he's going to knock it down. So, I'm looking here and I'm saying some of these rotations are a little wonky. Some of the guys who aren't playing a little head scratching. We rocking with you because, again, it had been 84 years, in the words of Rose, since we last reached a Final Four. But, man, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little baffled by the lack of adjustments that have gone into this team.
Yeah, I also stand at a D, and for the same reason that you pointed out, I think in my mind, this falls way heavier on the construction of the roster than it does like the actual in-game coaching and adjustments. I really think the in-game coaching has been relatively fine for the most part. Some of the rotations are not making a whole lot of sense, and some of the guys playing or maybe not playing, yes, I think that's a couple question marks there as well. But as far as the play designs, I think some of the play designs on offense have been fine, just the shots haven't quite been falling. And I think some of the conversations would change if it was inverted. But the way the roster has been constructed, to Kenton's point as well, we knew coming into this season what we were going to struggle at. We're going to struggle rebounding. We're going to struggle shooting from the perimeter. And both of those things have manifested themselves in the worst way possible. And so now we're at the midpoint of the season, and it's like, well, yeah, who didn't see this coming? So that's entirely frustrating. So I think on the roster construction standpoint, that's where the majority of my weight of my grade comes from. And I do have that as a D. Feel free to tell us your grades in the comments for the front court, back court, and the coaching staff. If you feel inclined to give this some positive reinforcement, I know many of you probably will not give them that amount of grace. It is what it is. Drop that in the comments if you will. I'd be sure to read each and every one of those. Coming up next, we're going to round out our Thursday show with some more positive news from the NC State baseball front. More on this after a quick word from our sponsors. Our second Thursday sponsor is Gametime. Attending NFL playoff games is an experience like no other. The energy, the excitement, and the connection with other fans is simply unmatched. I remember the thrill of seeing my favorite team clinch a playoff win live, and it's a memory that I'll never forget. This year, Gametime makes it easier than ever before to create those unforgettable memories with their new feature, Gametime Picks. It filters out all of the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, and you won't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. The curation of Gametime Picks makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, you name it, they got it. Toggling the all-in pricing feature on the app will show your total upfront, so you receive zero surprises at checkout. And as always, you get that panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect upon arrival. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, and again, create an account and use redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Last couple minutes of our Thursday show real quickly. More positive news on the NC State baseball front. Both senior pitcher Matt Willitson, who's recovering from Tommy John surgery, and outfielder Josh Hogue, who broke his leg around the midpoint of last season, both players will be expected to be a full go by opening day 2025. That is a massive, massive boost to this year's roster. Obviously, Matt Willitson, one of the most experienced, probably the most experienced player on the entire team, pitcher, player, regardless. He's been here with us, I think, for 5 or 6 years now. Seen it all, been through it all. We are very fortunate to have him back for one last ride. And he bolsters that pitching rotation for the Wolfpack in 2025, which will very likely be one of the better ones in the entire ACC conference. Getting Matt Willitson back for his senior year, massive, massive boost.
Grayson, do you have room in your setup there for more banners? Because I
would love some. Please give me banners.
I got a feeling that old Elliot Avent is cooking up something special on that diamond. I'll tell you what. Yes, losing AMAC was a big deal, right? Losing Pennington, it's a very big deal. You know, you lose big bats, a bunch of big bats back to back to back and such. I mean, you knew with those two, their senior transfers after this year, they're going on to the show and all that good stuff. You get that. But even beyond that, you kind of wonder where are the hits going to come from off this team? Where are the hits going to come from on this team? Because again, this is a pitching staff that every time you look up, you get a new update that they're getting deeper and deeper in terms of talent. There is only one thing that I really need to go very right that I'm not sure about. I believe it will go right, but I'm not sure. My man Dom Fritton, we need freshman Dom back. We need rom-com Dom walking back up there, because some of those gems that he got us out of his freshman year, it was filthy. It was, you walk a freshman into a bases loaded situation, you're expecting him to piss down his leg. Anything less than the grand slam, you're like, oh, we stopped the bleeding, I guess. And he just walks up there, 1, 2, 3. All right, good to see you guys. Sorry for the runners in scoring position, but no swoop for you. And last year, he didn't quite have that year. But again, with Willitson, with Duden, with all of these guys coming back and getting bigger, stronger, faster, better, healthier, I truly expect something special out of a Pac team that went to Omaha last year that's returning a ton of pitching production.
Yeah, with a healthy Willitson, maybe a freshman year Dom Fritton, and some combination of Ryan Marone, Cooper Consiglio, and maybe insert another starting pitcher name here, NC State could have one of the better weekend rotations in the ACC as well before you even get back into the bullpen. So getting Matt Willitson back is a humongous boost. And then Josh Hogue as well. He was an outfielder for the Pack last year, was quietly putting together a very solid season, hitting over 300 before he suffered that very unfortunate broken leg out there in right field. Getting him back fully healthy and inserting him back in the lineup will surely be another big boost into the Pack lineup. And then last point of news here, the stadium renovations for the Doak are finally hitting phase 2. Extremely long overdue. I know Elliot Avent has been talking about this for literally like a decade, probably if not more than a decade. In terms of locker room updates, pitching facility updates, hitting facility updates, so many things that this program has sorely missed out on for at least probably a decade. Kenton, obviously you went through the recruiting on the football side. I want to talk about facilities here just real quickly. When you were weighing your college decisions, how big are facilities factoring into your decision?
For me personally, I wasn't a huge facilities guy, but playing at Cass Tech, I played with a ton of guys who were. I played with a lot of guys who were like, oh, yeah, I can't work out in no weight room. And even though I say I wasn't the biggest facility guy, there was still, and I'm not going to say any names here, but there was a school that had a weight room that was so small, they couldn't have the entire team in there lifting at once. And I was instantly like, yeah, I'm out. Hey, y'all boys be safe. I'm not coming back here, So there is definitely an advantage to having updated facilities and all that from the recruiting portion of it, but also from the training portion of it, the player development portion of it. When you get those upgraded facilities and whatnot, you can do entirely different things than you would otherwise. And what do I mean by that, right? So in football in particular, if you don't have an indoor facility, it limits what you can do in terms of like, hey, when can you practice? When can you not practice? All that type of stuff. When can you get in field work? When can you not get in field work? Can you get in playing on turf in a controlled environment, all that good stuff? It gets in a lot of those things. And Grayson, you know about baseball. Every team doesn't have a pitching lab. Every team doesn't have certain things in terms of the different cameras that watch your swing and tell you about the different hitches and not only your step, but in your timing and your pitch diagnosis, all that type of thing. So having better facilities and better technology will never be a negative. It'll never be a negative. But in this instance, I would say it's definitely going to help because, again, we were lagging behind. And Elliott Avent was doing more with less. But I always say, if a flower or a rose can bloom in concrete, imagine what happens if you put it in a garden. And that's what we're doing now. We're putting the rose in the garden.
That was a perfect analogy for what is about to happen for NC State baseball. I have long said that State has been one of the most impressive programs in the country based on what they've been working with in terms of facilities and the upkeep and all that. They've been so far behind the times that, quite honestly, it has hurt the recruiting for this program for quite some time. The success has been there. We've been to Omaha multiple times. We're constantly a force in ACC play. Once you get your facilities to match your program success, that is how you reach another level. And NC State is right on the precipice of reaching another level of college baseball success. These facility upgrades should give NC State a massive boost on the recruiting trail, further success, brand recognition, all of it. This is a really big deal. It's long overdue, but it's finally taking place. And NC State baseball fans everywhere probably could not be more excited about what's to come. That'll do it for us here on Thursday. As always, thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to hit that like button, drop your comments in the comment box, mash that subscribe button if you have not already. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Friday for more. And until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.